Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where we need to go to a specific location on the moon and figure out what's going on with this Mooner signal. And we're going to do that, but first I'd like to get done with this lonely satellite mission real quick. That should be very, very, very easy. So we're just going to go to the VAB here and we're going to create a probe core. This is going to need a battery, it's going to need an antenna, and it's going to need a solar panel. That's all fine. So we're going to go into our command and control vessels. This is a cupola already. Interesting. But what we really need is some sort of a probe core. So I'm wondering... This comes equipped with a small battery and antenna, but we'll probably include our own. Yeah, most likely. So we're going to end up going with the Octo here. Does this have a reaction wheel in it? These don't say that they do have a reaction wheel in them, but they absolutely do. So we're going to need to figure out if this does. It does. So that is absolutely great. Do we have access to fairings at this point? Hang on. Let's go into... Can we search all? Fairing. Okay, yeah, we do have access to some fairing. So this would be a small fairing here. Is that a 1.25 meter? Yeah, that's got to be. FF125? That's a 1.25 meter fairing. Okay, so that's fine. So we're going to have this ComSat be relatively small, right? It's going to be a pretty... We're going to put a rechargeable battery on here for sure. It's going to be a pretty tiny little device. So this is going to need to have a rechargeable battery, a solar panel of some variety. We're probably going to put on about 2 of them. Something like this or so. So that hopefully, no matter where the sun is, we have a little bit of power flow. If we're like this, it could be a bit problematic, though. Maybe we should put 4 on, because I would normally be thinking about the price of these things. But price isn't a factor. We're in science mode. There is no career mode in KSP2 as of yet. So that is absolutely fine to put 4 on. Then we'd want to have an antenna on here. So that would be communications. And this is a static antenna designed mostly for communications probes. Is there a difference in KSP2 between a regular antenna and a relay antenna is the question. So that would go in theory here. That's RA2. Surely that means relay antenna 2, right? Pretty sure. It's mostly intended for communications probes anyway. So this would be the idea. Then we would need some small amount of fuel on this vehicle. So that would end up being probably just... This would be way overkill. Probably something like a T200. Even that feels really overkill. Is there like an Oscar Mayer size that we have access to? Or rather, Oscar B size. I guess Oscar Mayer is meat, isn't it? So we would definitely put in something like an Oscar 2 or an Oscar B, 2 of them. We don't have like an Oscar C, but that's okay. Something like this, and then a very, very, very small engine. Even the Terrier would be too much. We'd probably be looking for a Spark here. So it'd be something like this. Now the question is, how much delta V does this have? This would be in vacuum. This would be 1000 dV. That's more than sufficient. So that would be okay. Then we would need a decoupler here. A TD12 decoupler is honestly a little too big for this, I feel like. But we could put it right there. And then, oh, I see. So the TD12 decoupler does actually have the close-in to it in KSP2. That's cool. So the fairing is going to need... Oh, that's how that's constructed. Okay. So we would put the fairing to be about here or so. Then how would we move it? Ah, like that. I see. Fairing construction is kind of weird here. Did that work? Hang on. I think it was invisible. I think it worked, but it was invisible. So let's try that again. We would bring it in to about here or so. I kind of like this fairing construction system. Okay, I'm not 100% convinced that this fairing is actually functional, though. It might be because of the decoupler here. So our main problem, then, would be the size of this decoupler. It's a TD12. So let's hop over to mission control here. I don't know if we'll lose progress on this. Surely it'll prompt us if we would. Actually, I want to go to R&D. Surely we would be prompted to save if we were going to lose progress on that, right? But the question is, what do we need for, well, where would we get the TD06? Or the TD.625? That's the question here. So precision propulsion, enhanced electronics, expanded construction. Yeah, none of these look about right. There's the TD06, an enhanced coupling. So we need about 530 science to get that. Okay. So we're going to head on back to the VAB, which this should be still in its same position. Yes. So ideally, we'd want to put a fairing on here, right? Now, we may actually have to bring out this fairing a little bit like so. Hang on. Yes, like that. This may be what's actually required here. Yeah, that worked. Now, that's not ideal, to be sure. But that will work for now. So next we need to do some sort of a delivery vehicle. So I'm going to put in just like a T400 here. This is going to be a Terrier engine. And this is just intended to put it in Kerbal orbit. That's all we need, I think, is Kerbal orbit, right? Let's double check that in mission control. So hopping back over to mission control here, lonely satellite, orbit Kerbal, just any orbit of Kerbal. Okay, beautiful. So back into the VAB here, and we're going to need to deliver this into orbit. This is already probably a little bit overkill, but that's okay. Let's put in a TD-12, and let's put in something like a pair of T-800s, and then a spark engine here. Or not a spark. A spark would be way too small. A swivel. Something like that. Okay, so we can combine together these stages. That fairing is likely going to be manually triggered. And the question is, what's our thrust to weight here? So this is going to be in vacuum, or rather in atmosphere. Thrust to weight of 1.38. So this is a little bit slow, this stage. But I think that's probably fine. So we're going to call this the ComSat. Okay, and we'll save that in a new workspace? No. Hang on. Well, let's call the workspace file name the ComSat as well. Okay. I think I'm starting to wrap my head around how that workspace works. There's a difference between the vehicle, which is all of these put together, and the workspace, which is if we had this guy here, this would be a separate vehicle, but it would be part of the same workspace, I believe is what we have going on here. So that's okay. We'll just save this. Yeah, that can be overwritten. And we're going to launch this guy. Now, this is going to be slow off the pad for sure, but we should have enough to get us into orbit in theory. I'm noticing some wiggling going on here, but that's probably due to gimbaling. It's okay. Let's just lift this thing off. I'm going to skip the countdown. We are out of here. Fantastic. So we've got some decent speed going here. This isn't that slow off the pad. It's like 1.4. It's a little slower than I would normally like it to be. No doubt about that. But we're going to want to punch up through a fair amount of the atmosphere on this first stage. That's for sure. So we're probably going to want to have our apoapsis be pretty high here. Probably somewhere around 20-ish kilometers before we start a gravity turn. And that's reasonably okay. Our surface speed is not all that high, but we should have a pretty decent thrust to weight by this point, now that we've burned about half of that fuel from the first stage off. So that is absolutely phenomenal. 300 meters per second is our current vertical speed. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 kilometers, bringing this right on over to the 45-degree marker. It doesn't like to turn too much beyond here. That's aerodynamics, though. Okay, we're at 30 kilometers right now. I'm just going to hold it here because we need a lot more altitude. But I want to be putting some amount of speed into horizontal at this point. So we've got about 45 kilometers on the apoapsis. We should probably just lock to prograde at this time, and that is what I'm going to do. We'll put ourselves into orbital mode and just lock to orbital prograde. And 67, 68, 69, 70. Yeah, that's looking absolutely fine. Let's actually just put ourselves right here at the horizon. because we need as much horizontal speed as we can. Our apoapsis is looking pretty good. I'm just going to burn the rest of this off and get a little bit of separation, turning that guy off. And then I want to trigger this fairing. We should not need the fairing anymore at this point. So we'll jettison off that fairing. Oh, that's definitely a different jettison. No doubt about that. And we're going to just coast on up right now. We're at 92 kilometers, and at this apoapsis, we're going to look to circularize this somewhere around here or so. Should be pretty decent. 114, that's not quite where we want it to be. Timing is not phenomenal there. So maybe closer to, if I can grab this. I want to grab this timing. Awkward angle, but sure. Okay, so something more along the lines of this. This is not going to be perfect. But let's just align to that node. And it'll be good enough, I guess. We could maybe toss in a little bit of, like, radial if we wanted to absolutely nail it. But our timing isn't perfect here. So it would need to go, like, this way. About like that, and then a little bit more prograde. Yeah, about there. That would do the trick. So let's align to that, and we're going to start this burn in about 50 seconds. It'll be 900 meters per second, but we can see we've got almost 3,000 in this tank. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. And that doesn't even count what's up here. So there is that. I don't want to increase that. Okay, this is fine. So we're just going to warp forward a little bit here. We're actually a little too close to auto warp. So we're going to manually warp. It brought it back down again. 20 seconds, 10, and what time is it? Okay. We're supposed to be burning right now. Wait, what? Okay. That engine never activated. Neither is this one. What is happening here? Hang on. This engine is supposed to be active. That engine never actually activated? There we go. I think I completely messed that up. It's absolutely fine, in theory. Maybe it's not absolutely fine. I'm looking at how much fuel we have. I definitely messed that up. That was 100% my own fault. That said, we're okay. We made it, just barely. So I don't know why I thought that this engine wasn't deactivated. I never throttled it up. I'm dumb. But we made it. It's fine. Mission complete. That's what we get for overbuilding. A complete mission. Excellent. So we are, of course, going to submit this and get our 100 science. So that is perfect, and we need to increase our power on our lunar lander. So we're going to hop into the VAB here, with the idea being we want to change out that first and second stage, right? So the first stage, that is this guy here. No, I don't want to save it. I want to open this. Open this guy. Fantastic. So we'll load this. Hang on, that's not the right one. It should be this one. Okay, that's good. So we're going to ditch these SRBs. At this point, we have access to fuel lines, correct? Fuel lines, yes. Okay, beautiful. So that is absolutely great. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave this stage the way it is. This stage is going to be significantly souped up. So that means that we are going to get T800s in quad coupling, and those are going to go in right about here or so. Then we're going to put additional T800s here and here, and then swivels out here. Now the question is, if we were to lift all of these at the same time, what would this end up looking like for thrust to weight? 1.19. So that's not fantastic, but it's okay. We could pile more fuel on these. This is, of course, a terrible idea. And that would bring this down to 1.08. Okay. This is absolutely not great in terms of the power level, but I would want to put nose cones on here. And then we would also want to put in fuel lines going from here to here. And we'd also want to do fuel lines going from here to here, like that. That would be fairly important. And then we would need struts here. So we're going to have some power off the pad issues with this current design. That's for sure. But I want to get these struts in here first, and that would end up going from, say, here to, say, here. Okay. That should be reasonably fine as far as stability goes. Now, the main problem here is, of course, power level. So, in order to address that, I'm going to detach these side boosters, and we're going to remove all of this. I'm actually going to remove everything here. We're going to increase this. So we have a small to medium adapter here. This is not, I think, a fuel adapter. Let's just search adapter. Yeah, this is the only adapter that we have right now. It's not a fuel adapter. It's going to have to do. So we're going to put in a X232 here. That is then going to be running off of a Poodle engine, like so. Then we're going to have a TD25 decoupler. So that would be this guy. And then we're going to do a... Where are we? Yeah, we're going to go with an X232, which is the largest fuel tank size we have right now. And we're going to put 2 of those. So that is equivalent to 1 big orange tank. And I'm going to do a second big orange tank there. And then on the bottom of this, what do we have for our biggest engines? Do we have access to mainsails yet? Probably not, but we do have the skipper. So that is something, anyway. That is a fair amount more in terms of power level, and we're just going to put that guy right down over here. How do we actually... Oh, that's awkward. Okay. Middle click and drag? Sure. That feels a little strange, but I'll get used to it, I'm sure. So the thrust to weight here in stage 3 is, of course, not great. I want this to get merged together. These stages are completely useless. This up here we'll go over in a moment. That's 0.63, but that's okay. This is 0.56. That is, of course, expected to be pretty low. We'll eventually want to upgrade this to a mainsail. The real question here is, if we attach these guys on, they look pretty small. I'm thinking this is probably not the way that we want to go here. All of that combined together. So something like this. Wait, what engine is this? That goes here. Okay, so these combined together is 0.83 thrust to weight. This is definitely too small. So I think we're going to ditch the concept of the liquid-fueled side boosters, and we're going to go for SRBs. We just have a significantly larger center core here. And at this point, that would be something along the lines of 1.62. That seems about right. Okay, so that is fantastic. We're going to go with something along the lines of this. I do want to move these guys up a little bit. That was not what I wanted to do. I want to rotate and translate them. And so I want to grab these guys, move them up to about here or so. That looks about right. And let's put in nose cones up on top. There we go. And we'll just need to put in our stability here. So we are going to have the fuel lines going from outside in up here. And it looks like these broke a little bit. Okay, I'm not 100% convinced that that's going well. Let's have them connect, like, up here. And then on this side, they should connect, like, just right over here. Okay, something along the lines of that. I want to pull the fuel from the outside in. So that'll be absolutely fine. Then we're, of course, going to need to strut these together. So a strut here. About like that. And then a strut down at the bottom here. So that would be down this way. Cool. So just something like that for now. This is obviously still going to be a little bit awkward. 1.62, though, is not too bad. By the time we get up in the vacuum here, this will actually be atmosphere, but by this point, it'll be, you know, somewhere around here or so, and that's reasonably fine. Okay, let's check our staging here. So this is all good. This is good. This is fine. These detach. Yeah, we'll probably do that manually. These detach. Yep, that all looks good. Okay. So I'm going to save this as the Moon Lander workspace. Okay, there we go. And this is apparently the fly-safe vehicle. But let's launch this as an upgraded version of our Moonlander. One thing I'm worried about, though, is structural integrity here. So I'm actually going to put in some struts from here to here, just to make sure we're nice and solid there. Okay, we'll save that again. Yes, go ahead and overwrite it, and let's put this out on the pad. We are headed to the moon. Now, eventually, we're going to be upgrading these SRBs to be some sort of, like, dual... I would prefer to have 2 boosters rather than 4 here. Eventually, we'll do that. But for now, this will do absolutely fine. Let's get out of here. No, we're going to skip the countdown. We are just going. Cool. So we're going to take the SRBs up a ways. The question is, are they going to go just straight up? The answer to that is maybe. I'm keeping an eye on the fuel there and our apoapsis. We probably just want to get as much verticality out of them as possible because our thrust to weight is going to be somewhat low when our SRBs burn off. So getting as much height as possible out of our SRBs and then burning straight at the horizon might be the way to go here. We might still need some pro-grade burning at that point. We'll see how it goes. But let's just get as much altitude out of them as we can. As we can see, we're already only at 15 kilometers. And we're almost out of SRB here. We're at 20 kilometer. 25. But the SRBs are out of fuel now. So away they go, and now we're going to start heading over. Ooh, hang on a moment. We're tumbling. Are we able to get that under control? Well, we may just do a backflip here. That's okay. That happens occasionally. Let's bring ourselves back into the verticality here. There we go. So now we know that we have some aerodynamics issues for sure here. That is absolutely noted. That will have cost us a lot of speed. So I'm burning here because we need to get that apoapsis up. Okay. That definitely cost us a lot of speed. We're a little top-heavy up this way as well, I feel like, and that's not necessarily amazing. We're now in orbital mode. Our apoapsis is reasonably high. This thing likes to tip over. I'm going to keep us at 45 degrees for the moment. I see that we are still going down on our time to apoapsis. And that, of course, is not great. That means that we need to get more verticality here. We are currently losing the fight with gravity. So a lot of that is due to that tumble. No doubt about that, and we can fix that in future iterations. Time to apoapsis is currently only 18 seconds. It's not going down by 1 second per second, though. So I'm just holding at this 45-degree angle here and letting our thrust to weight change. 14 seconds, 13, 12, 11. It's definitely not 1 second per second. That may start going up soon, but I think we need to get more verticality here. So I'm going to park us here. We're putting more of this into fighting gravity now. And you can see that the T-minus to apoapsis is still going down, but very, very slightly. So this is obviously non-ideal, right? This is indicative of low thrust to weight. And we knew that that would happen. The core reason why that's occurring at this moment is, of course, because of that backflip. The backflip was bad. The backflip was very bad. Now, the skipper that we've got on this is definitely not the engine that we want long-term. And we can put some sort of stability enhancers on our vehicle here. Ah, look at this. Time to apoapsis has started to go up. That's good, but we need our apoapsis to be a lot higher than this. Our orbital speed is not very high at all right now. And this is mostly because of the loss of momentum due to that tumble. The loss of momentum was very, very grim. But I think this is recoverable, believe it or not. We've still got 1,000 meters per second in this thing. So we're pushing that apoapsis up, and we're getting that T- marker to go up. That will start going up faster and faster as we approach some form of orbital velocity. Some form. But we're still a long ways away from orbital velocity at this point. We're fighting gravity very heavily. Our thrust to weight is a lot higher, but we're still burning in this attitude, and I don't like burning in this attitude. It's not great. This is pretty grim. So 60 kilometers here for our apoapsis, 30 seconds on the T-. We need that apoapsis to be a lot higher at this moment. But I'm going to start bringing us over towards that prograde marker. And we'll see what happens to our apoapsis timer. Because we need a lot of horizontal speed right now. So I'm just putting us right at the horizon. It is going down. It's going down fairly quickly. But we need this horizontal speed. Absolutely. We're going to be ditching this stage shortly, and our thrust to weight is going to continue to be fairly low. So that is absolutely noted. But we only need about 600 more meters per second here. Well, like 700. Okay. So the primary problem there, and we're basically at the apoapsis right now. We need to burn about here. The primary issue is that tumble. If the tumble hadn't happened, we would be in a much better situation as far as our overall speed. We lost a lot of momentum to that, and we have to make it up at this point. So we're just pushing up this apoapsis again. We're still not out of the atmosphere with the apoapsis, and that's all due to that tumble. 100%. There was a lot of drag that happened in that time, and momentum is the absolute most important thing, right? So that's fine. I'm going to push this up to about 75 kilometers here. So that's 73, 74, and 75. So we're now at peak efficiency. We are out of the atmosphere officially. And let's just get ourselves as much horizontal speed as we can. I want to put this right on the prograde marker. We're keeping an eye on this timer. It is going down, but that's okay. It's going down kind of slowly. So let's put this thing in orbit, and we're definitely going to get further than we did with the previous one, but this is all due to that tumble. That tumble is easily fixable. I want to be clear about that. But we're still going with this. We're going to make it into orbit very, very quickly here. So orbital velocity will be achieved. This is not a problem. And we'll have enough delta V to transfer out to the moon with this as well, maybe even enough to break there. So even with the significant problem that we occurred on Ascent, this is fine. We're actually A-okay here, I think. So I'm going to continue to hold here until the apoapsis is about 80 kilometers. We do need a fair amount more orbital velocity here, about 100 meters per second or so. But we'll have enough to transfer out to the moon and some for our braking velocity once we get there. I think we'll have to use some of our lander for that, but that's relatively okay. We're actually at 80 right now. I'm going to take it to 85. Okay, this is good enough. We're basically at orbital velocity right now, and we need to go to the Kerbal apoapsis here. Oh, that's our ComSat, right. And we need to just circularize this guy on up. So right around here or so. That'll do. So that's 86 and 87. Yep, that looks fine. So that burn is going to be in about 7 minutes, and we will orient for that. That's apparently quite a ways away. It's off over here. Gotcha. So we're just going to put this in orbit. We've still got 1,000 meters per second in this tank. So yeah, the tumble definitely cost us a lot of delta V there. There's no doubt about it, but we're okay. We can still make this happen fairly easily. This is still, even beyond that, more powerful, and we can just add in some stabilizers. for future flights. That's not a problem. Or just be more cautious with our gravity turn. That is also a theoretical option. Cool, so we're going to get this burn done. This is only going to be 14 meters per second, so it's about a 1 second burn to get us into orbit here. I think we're in orbit now. Cool. This didn't update, but that's fine. This is a very decent orbit at this point. Cool. So it's time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we are going to do our home and transfer out to the moon, and we're going to see just how much this fuel gets us there. It'll get us most of the way, so we're doing pretty well as far as fuel goes, even with that problem. I like it. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.